Hi everyone, Mrs. Pucell here. I wanted to go through a few things for your activity number 4 about reading a paycheck. Most of you, if you have not worked and received a paycheck, some of these terms and things will be unfamiliar, which will make the assignment difficult to do. So I am going to go through a little tutorial right now. Feel free to refer back to this as you're working on the questions. If you need help, you can also contact your teacher. And I also put this last thing under virtual learning for the week, pay stub info. If you click on this, this is also a little reference sheet that you can also refer back to. So first of all, before we look at the paychecks, I'll talk about this because this might help quite a bit. These terms are also in the Pear Deck, which was activity 3, I believe. So these terms you can also find in the Pear Deck if you need more of an explanation. Okay, so the first two terms, when you are working, you typically will get paid an annual salary or a biweekly salary. So that means usually you get paid every other week. And so you'll get or two paychecks a month. And you typically in one paycheck would get paid for 2 weeks. When you get a job, there's a few things that you want to know. One, of course, is the salary and how much money you're going to make. The other one is, are there any benefits? So, a common benefit that you want to know is, especially as an adult, health insurance is really, really expensive. So, you do want to know if there is any dental or medical insurance because getting it through your employer is going to be cheaper than getting it on your own. So, let's go back to the two terms. When you get your job, you get paid a gross salary, but that is not actually what you take home. So, a gross salary is what you make before taxes and other deductions are taken out of your paycheck. So, if you're wondering, besides taxes, what some of those other deductions are, we'll take a look at a sample paycheck in 1 second here. But your gross pay is going to be your higher salary because, again, that's before anything was deducted from your paycheck. So, that's going to be a higher amount of money, but it is not what you actually take home. So if you look at the second term there, net pay is what you do take home. And most people have direct deposit, which means the check goes right into your bank account directly. So that is what you actually are taking home. And that is what you take home and what you get paid after those deductions on your paycheck, which we'll look at again in a second. So that is going to be your lower amount of money. That is going to be what you make after they take those deductions out of your paycheck. So, what are some common deductions? These are two of them, these aren't all of them. But one of the questions on your assignment will be what does that particular employee put towards their retirement fund? So, think about it. When you stop working and you retire, how are you going to have money to live off of and support yourself and possibly your spouse or your family? So, you put aside money every paycheck for retirement that you get back when you retire. Another thing that you'll want to know for the paycheck assignment is it will ask you what was taken out of your current paycheck. So, what was taken out for a certain deduction for those 2 weeks from the current check, or it may ask you what was taken out for a certain deduction for the whole year. Okay, so what that means is right now, with it being April, if I were to look at my paycheck, it would have what was taken out for a certain deduction for the current 2 week check, but also it would have an accumulation of what was taken out so far from January, February, March, and April of 2020. So it would have what was taken out for the year. So make sure in your question you're reading carefully. Is it asking what was taken out of the current paycheck or what was taken out for the year, which is the YTD? So I am going to close out of this cheat sheet so I don't get confused with all the tabs I've opened. So now you do need to open the paychecks. Okay, so there's those 3 paychecks as I told you in the first video. So Jane Brown, Mary Stone, and I think Peter Smith. And then you need to open the questions. So the questions are either going to be a number or a word, so they should not be super long. I also am going to look for correctness. So I want to make sure that you're not just rushing through and putting down any information or any answers. I want to make sure that you understand what the assignment is. And this is really important because you're going to be working and making money the rest of your life. So you want to make sure that you're being paid the correct amount. And you also should understand, what are some of those things that are taken out of your paycheck. So I'm not really going to go through a lot of the questions with you. Okay, that's going to be your task. So what I'm going to do is point out a few things to look for on the paychecks. So this is Every paycheck's going to have maybe a little different format, but it should all have the same information for the most part. So on the top, Hamburger Palace Enterprises, that is going to be the employer. So that is who the person is working for. Now, in this case, it is a corporation or a company. Sometimes it may be like if it's a family owned business, it may be a person. Okay. But in this case, the employer is going to be the Hamburger Palace Enterprises. The employee, the person that is receiving the check and doing the work, is Jane Brown. Okay. So make sure you understand the difference between those because question number 1 does ask you who her employer is. Okay. And I know sometimes some of my students initially are looking for the name of a person, but for example, my paycheck, I always say, does not come from Dr. Green, the principal. It would come from Lockport Township High School. So make sure in this case, if they're working for a company or a chain restaurant or a corporation, you're looking for that instead of the name of a person. Okay. So you'll see the employer, you'll see the employee, you'll also see the date. Okay. There should be some kind of date indicating what the paycheck is from, what dates, what weeks. Okay. So that you can keep track of that. The check number, not really important. That would be more important for the employer or whoever doing payroll. Okay, so this amount here, this first amount is the lower salary. So this is actually what you're taking home, the 110.28, which would be your net pay. Okay. How do I know that? Because over here, if I look at the left, it's telling me that Jane worked 20 hours for those 2 weeks. So the regular hours, 20, she grossed 180. Okay, so I know this is the gross and this is the net because 180 is higher than 110. And remember, after taxes and other deductions, your net pay is what you actually get to take home that gets deposited in your bank account. So what are some examples of those deductions? Again, you'll see listed here. So your taxes withheld. These are some common deductions: federal income tax, Social Security, Medicare, state income tax. Also over here on the right, under other deductions, she works for a hamburger place. So during break one day, she got a hamburger or a meal. And so that was also deducted from her paycheck because it wasn't free. So some other things, these are the amounts that were deducted for each of these items. And remember, as I said earlier, this is the amount that was taken out of the current paycheck. Okay, so if your question asked what was taken out for Medicare from the current paycheck, it would be 2023. But if it said what was taken out for Medicare for the whole year or for 2015, you would put 2393. Okay, so this paycheck is from March 14th of 2015. So in January, February, and March, accumulated, the amount for Medicare was 2393. Other things down here before we move to the second check with a couple new things. The current gross pay, as we saw up here, is 180, and then YTD means the annual yearly salary so far accumulated January, February, and March in 2015. She grossed 1,650. Okay, so that is the first paycheck. The second paycheck has a few new things, and the third one doesn't have anything new. So I'm just going to go over a couple more things here on Peter's check. All right, so Peter, we have employer, the banana bread bar and more. The employee is Peter Smith. This one does have his Social Security number listed. Also the pay period, so the dates of the paycheck. Check number, now this one does say net pay. Okay, so this one did indicate what the net pay was if you weren't sure, but the net pay should be the lower amount that you take home. So over here is where you'll find the gross. So Peter worked 40 hours, so he grossed 240. However, he also worked 6 hours of overtime. So he also grossed $54. Add that together. His current gross from that whole 2-week paycheck was $294 with the regular hours and the overtime hours. His gross for the year was $3,582. His taxes and other deductions were similar to Jane's: federal income, Social Security, Medicare, state income. The new ones are over here on the right-hand side. And also, if you remember from your cheat sheet, 401k is another name for your retirement account. So if you have a question about how much was put toward retirement, you would write the correct amount. And then the other thing I had said, when you get a job, you want to know what the benefits are. Is there health insurance? Because paying $15 out of your check or whatever the amount is every 2 weeks is going to be lower than if I were to call up an insurance company and get a policy on my own. So another common deduction that hopefully you would get with your job is health insurance. Beyond that, though, if you go to the third check, a little different format again, but for the most part, same information. So there's really nothing new there. So now once you go back to answer the questions, if you need help, you can either contact me or your other teachers or Mrs. Orban. You can also rewatch this video, or you can even look at the little cheat sheet, which again on Classroom is that last one here, pay stub info. Okay. But if we glance quickly over the questions, there's 15 of them. First one is asking the employer what was earned before taxes were taken out. So make sure you know if that's gross or net. Number 4, listing her deductions. One thing in number 3, I know we didn't really talk about that on the paycheck, but what you would do is take the gross salary, okay, what that person grossed, and divide it by how many hours they worked to figure out how much they made each hour, what their hourly wage was. But overall, anything that you'll see in the questions, I should have gone over in this video clip. But if you have other questions, please don't hesitate to contact one of us. And when you are finished, make sure you upload your copy to Classroom and click Turn In. Okay? Good luck. And if you need other help, don't hesitate to ask.